And now, a workshop of the McAllen City Commission. All workshops are open to the public in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. These workshops allow for detailed staff presentations.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. We have a few items. Any question regarding today's meeting? Commissioners? No? I guess we'll go to item number 2. Roy?
Yes, sir. This is an item that we discussed last year during budget, and that is the proposal that we have a perimeter fencing around
Excellent.
the convention center. Something nice, something that's aesthetically pleasing, and it helps us with security during events. So we've got a quick presentation. I don't know why no one's over here. Joe, where's Shahira? Sure. All right, well, in that
Okay,
case,
we'll go
if you
item
don't
number
mind, we'll
three.
go item number 3.
Item
That
number
is
3.
is something that you've approved, and we want to give you an update on where we are with the storage facility.
She had to take her baby to the doctor. Mike's on his way here,
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission.
and he's the
I have
one
a
who
quick
did all the work on the fence.
So you,
All right.
we've been working with Convention Center Facility, Haida and her staff, Mike Hernandez, on developing a storage and putting a timeline together, and we're looking here for your approval on this. Sorry about that. So the first slide is just to go over the project. It's a supplemental storage facility implementing warehouse rack and storage system. The exhibit is for maintenance and pre-staging of equipment. The project elements of this is a 1,600 square foot or an 80 by 200 foot building. Planned to be structural steel frame, 20-foot ceiling height, 2 bay garage door access, a fire suppression system, non-climatized. The other thing that I would mention is we've been asked to make sure that the facade of the facility matches the facade of the convention center. If you, can you put it to screen grab on that? Once they screen grab this, you'll notice we have a drawing, it's that one on the bottom. Yes, sir. We have a drawing that shows the more or less location of where that is proposed. It's directly to the north side of the convention center where they currently have storage. We would take up some parking, have to redo some of the drainage, some of the landscaping, some of the irrigation as part of that facility. What we've put together in your packet is the approximate costs that we have, or they're as far as the design, those are the costs that we're looking at. Structural steel designer or engineer is $85,000, a mechanical or an MEP engineer is $31,000. We're planning to do the civil in-house. The topographic survey, $6,500, and then a geotechnical, before and after, we have to do some testing. That's an estimate of $10,500. We added an extra zero, I apologize for that. That's for a total of $133,000. The direct construction cost we estimate for this facility at $2,280,000. Again, so the current status and the anticipated schedule for this project. On design phase, the structural and MEP is in progress. The survey and geotech, we're doing scope development with those elements. And then the civil, we're doing the preliminary engineering right now. I'll be moving forward with the final design as we get some of the MEP and structural information in. We're planning on construction documents being completed in January of 2024, going out to solicit in February of 2024, and then hopefully we receive successful bids. If we receive successful bids, that'd be between March and April of 2024, and we could bring that to City Commission. What we're seeking today, or what the reason we came forward, is the storage facility is about $2 million, or what we roughly showed you earlier. And we just wanted to make sure that we sought your support to move forward with that project before we progress with anything. And Mike Hernandez is here. I was going over the storage facility, Mike. And we open it up for any questions that you may have, Mayor and Commission.
What's our budget?
Right now, we have $1 million set aside, and the reason we're coming today is because when we do the square footage and the prices that we've gotten, some of the prices we're using is we've built 2 storage facilities at Public Works, kind of using that as a barometer for and that's a lot smaller facility, but using that, and some of the prices we've got, we estimate this project to be at the $2,280,000 range.
Foundation elevated or regular?
We'll have to do site work. It'll be at level.
That level, but it's still about 137, about 138 per square foot, which doesn't sound that bad, but it's still a warehouse.
We're about at
What'll take up?
between 130 and 135 a square foot would what this facility would come at.
And you don't need any dock high at all?
They have a loading and unloading dock already. One of the reasons we haven't looked at that is it does add an additional cost. If it's something that, if we're willing to make that additional expenditure, we can look at that in the
Well,
design.
not if we don't need it, I'm just suggesting that it can be loaded.
This is mostly to store, good afternoon, this is mostly to store a lot of the equipment that we're currently storing under a canopy, and just to basically prevent it from getting damaged by sun and moisture. And so anything that we need that would be received by semi or by truck can be received in our current loading dock.
And a lot of the stuff we have sometimes outside is gonna be stored here, yeah, instead of.
Correct.
Because, I love our area, but sometimes we do have stuff all over the place, it makes sense.
As we've grown into the years, we accumulate more to meet the demands of our public, and we just don't have the place to store it.
I'm game, questions, comments, commission?
Is that gonna have fencing too around it?
No, sir, it's basically going to have the same, I guess, structure appeal as the current building, so the facade would be brick and some stucco as well. So that will open up to the existing loading dock, and one exterior door for larger deliveries or trailers off to the east side, which is to our parking lot right now.
So the pictures behind me are some of the architecture that we have to match for the facility.
So obviously, one of the reasons we're here is the estimate. And we actually talked about that during budget. We talked about whether $1 million was enough. The city commission actually questioned the figure. And so if you're okay with this, you're gonna see it in the new budget, you know, how we're gonna expand.
Well, there's no two questions, can we need it, Roy? It's, of course, we go through the process and hopefully it comes in less than that, but.
Right.
But I understand also, we're trying to get the facade to look similar to the rest, it is gonna get a little more expensive than a mere warehouse.
Right.
Are we still gonna have the storage facility at the trade zone?
Well, we have a facility there that's used for trailers and other storage, but yes,
Are we still
that
gonna-
wouldn't take the place of that
We're still
facility.
gonna have that also?
Yes, sir.
You know how many square feet that is?
50,000,
That's what I thought. And this is 16,000.
correct.
Question, comments?
No. Not a public hearing.
Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, if not, let's go to any other questions? If not, let's go to the other item.
Back to item number 2, review of the convention center perimeter fencing.
So the perimeter fencing discussion, or the discussion during budget, I think at one time, was how to secure the event activities that we have around the facility without using temporary fencing. And one of the things we started doing was getting quotes and ideas of how to make it look appealing instead of using temporary fencings, to come up with aluminum panels as tubes. I believe the information we had, there were 3/4-inch pickets, and then using stone columns at the necessary points for gates, creating a perimeter as you saw in the PowerPoint. I think, do we have that? Go to the next one. So the area in red and yellow is where we would have the perimeter fencing. We're looking at 2,145 feet, and we would have gates wherever we have driveways and wherever we have walkways as well. So, go to the next one. Yes, sir. One more. This would be what we would be doing at the entrances, at gates. A lot of the events that we have would be controlled to the public, where we would designate one or two main entrance areas. So this would allow us to keep vehicular traffic off premise, and it would be only walk-in traffic. If we needed to open a gate for emergency purposes, we can. And obviously, it would look a lot more appealing than some of the temporary fencing that we currently use. There was also a discussion of traffic bollards, and that's a different option, but that's something we can use now or at any other future point. These would be bollards that would basically just stop traffic from coming in to the driveway, which is what we call Santa Circle. And those are the images right there on that.
Do we have issues with traffic that we would possibly need something like that?
Yes, sir. The water obviously attracts a lot of people every weeknight, every weekend. And unfortunately, we've been having to call PD very often. We have a lot of folks that come in and like to maybe just strut their stuff when it comes to young kids with sports cars. They speed through, they try and race through, and sometimes burn a lot of rubber in front of the fountain.
Wow.
So that gets a little dangerous when it comes to all the pedestrians, all the families. We get quinceañeras, weddings, people that are out there taking pictures, and then we have kids that just have no regards for safety at all. We have security. It becomes a full-time job for anybody out there, so we just have to be careful with staff and careful with all our patrons as well.
But these bollards would be permanent?
So the bollards we looked into are basically hydraulic. So what we do is raise them when we need to,
Okay,
and then lower them when they're not needed.
okay. So we will be able to drive it at times.
Correct. Oh, yeah, we can drive it. If we have an event, we raise the bollards. If we want to control traffic, let's say weekends are very popular. So we want the pedestrian traffic.
Correct.
We want people to take advantage of the area, take
Correct.
pictures and everything, but we just don't, we want to be safe. We want to make sure that there's no speeding, no traffic, unnecessary traffic through that
But the
area.
main concern right now is the fencing.
Yes, sir.
Right. This is in addition to the fencing and even to protect the fencing. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, people are gonna have to get used to the fact that we've got a fence that we didn't have for 15 years. And then this is something that we'll figure out when the appropriate time is to have the bollards. We're gonna be able to take them, down. So the fencing is obviously the most important. We will have the circle open from time to time.
Yeah, I don't want to eliminate that possibility of people.
No, and it impacts circulation if you have them up all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
an-
it's very much needed, and probably should have been done from the initial, so, and of course, things cost money, but we have so many events here.
And I admit, we were incorrect. We should have done it.
Yep.
So, okay. Any other questions, comments?
Still a little torn. I feel it kind of closes it off, makes it.
Yeah.
It looks nice in the rendering, but I know this is still early.
But when we have the events, that's what I notice that all the time, we have so many events, and then you have that, you take it on, you take it
Orange
off,
fencing.
and then the man hours.
I know.
The
No,
man
I know.
hours, all that stuff.
No, I see the benefit of it, but I don't want to close it off to the public, and it gets very easy to say, oh, we're going to close it earlier and earlier.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
And
Yeah.
start limiting more, right? Because
No, if for some reason close it off at a certain time, we get calls all the time. So one of the good things is it lets people know we're having an event. It's like, what are you having now? The last thing we want to do is close it just for the sake of closing it. We want to keep it open. We like to see people out there. Obviously, the city and staff have invested a lot of time and effort in keeping that place looking great. So we want to make sure people get to enjoy it. But we want to keep them safe as well.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments?
The last image there is the estimated cost. These are preliminary estimates.
I'm like, that's what we don't want to see.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, just to make
It's
sure.
here. We're reading it, we're seeing it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item, Roy?
4 is a citizen survey with Zen City. We've got a little presentation on some additional work that we want to do as far as surveying our community, that we think will help us move forward with a lot of issues.
Good afternoon, City Commission, Mayor. Today, we're here as a follow-up to a survey that was conducted in 2022, a community survey. So this survey was done by a company called ETC Institute, and it was done via direct mail. It had 108 questions. It was rather lengthy. It was sent directly to people's mail, and it was, at the end of the day, it was representative of the city's demographics in terms of age, race, ethnicity, gender, income levels. And as you can see from this map, it was distributed throughout the city. So that survey had very good results. We had 94% satisfaction with McAllen as a place to live, 90% satisfaction with McAllen as a place to raise a family. And the city's moving in the right direction with improvement in satisfaction ratings in 55 of 89 areas since the previous survey, which was in 2019. So we typically conduct these surveys every 3 years. One of the areas that was high priority and the results were not ideal and were, in my opinion, they needed to be revisited was traffic flow and congestion. And the reason for that is the survey was conducted before the city took on investment in traffic flow software that essentially makes traffic a little faster. And so because that survey was conducted after the fact, or before the fact, we didn't have those readings. So this is what we're proposing. We're proposing a survey that's a little different from what we typically do. It's through a company called Zen City. It's a social media company that will conduct the surveys. Instead of doing it through direct mail, they'll do it via social media, via direct advertisements and panels. This is the image that people will see on their cell phones or devices. It's a pretty iconic image. It's our convention center, and with this this campaign to get people's responses, we would like to, one, inform the public, make sure that they're aware of this survey through press releases, including this on our city webpage, and through social media. So this survey would be an always-on city representative survey with 36 questions. So 36 questions is a third of the 108 questions that we typically do. So it's a much more condensed survey. It would be it would pop up in people's cell phones or devices in their native language, either in English or Spanish, and it would provide results citywide and also by district, which is really interesting. One of the things that they'll be able to do is provide cross tabulations by demographics. So we'll be able to query after the fact the results and say, what is this, for example, what does this particular age group have to say about this particular question? So the format of the survey is 18 to 22 base questions focused on quality of life and resident satisfaction, 10 demographic questions that are necessary. That way we can be able to do a proper, make sure it's representative of our city. And it has one add-on question that can be rotated as needed twice a year. So the satisfaction scores can be used as key performance indicators for departments, demonstrating changes in positive changes. and the results are provided on a 1 to 5 scale or open-ended. The good thing about the open-ended questions is that people can write, as much information. They could write a letter if they wanted to, describing what it is that they would like to see improved or things that we're doing well here in the city. So the idea would be to conduct a traffic flow, include traffic flow questions in December. The reason for that is that's when the I-2 interchange is slated to be completed. And so that particular project is what made the answers to the previous survey conducted last year not ideal, murky, and really made the results suspect. So the idea would be to do traffic in December and start with questions for the Parks Department in this particular month. And this would be questions that would be a complement to the Parks Department to their 5-year master plan that they're conducting this summer. And so after that, after the parks questions and after the questions for traffic, the city would the city would be able to include other questions as interested. So these are the questions that the Parks Department is proposing to be included in this community survey. So the first question is, what are the primary reasons you visit parks in the city? And it has a list of the various reasons people would visit parks. And then the second question, are there park amenities that you would like to see or see more of in the city? And people can click on those amenities that they would like to see. And then an open-ended question where they could tell us specific locations where they like to see improvements or specific locations where they'd like to see an additional amenity. So, like I mentioned, after these two initial cycles of the survey, we're really open to include other questions that the City Commission might find interesting to explore. And so these questions can range from housing to transportation to safety, sense of community, city services. I included general decision-making, project evaluation. We can include questions of that nature. We would have 3 questions available to us to cap off 36 questions total. The software is very good in terms of they have capabilities where we can include a map and people can drop pins as to areas that they'd like to see, changes or things of that nature. So the software has a lot of capabilities, and one of the great things about this software is the last survey that we conducted included comparisons to national averages and state averages. This particular software would be able to provide us comparisons to a cohort group of cities that are similar to us in terms of demographics, similar to us in terms of population density, and also the region. And so this is a list of cities that that would be included in our cohort. In Texas, it would be Sugar Land, Abilene, Midland, Arlington, Lubbock, San Angelo. In other states, it would be Tulsa, Oklahoma, Knoxville, Tennessee, and Fayetteville, Arkansas. So these are cities that would fall under, they'd be similar to us in terms of demographics, population density, and also the region. I've provided a list of questions we're proposing for this initial cycle. And at this point, I'd like to hear your suggestions for further questions for surveying the public. Well, one of the things that I will say about this survey, it significantly reduces what I call the non-response error. And non-response error or bias is, all those people that received a letter in the mail and just threw it away. This survey asks the public for their opinion directly to them through their cell phones, through their devices. And it also significantly eliminates people dropping off. After so many questions, people will just stop taking a survey or throw it in the trash or just stop.
What's up with, I know we pay Sin City a few G's a month. what's the cost of this, or what's?
So this is 20,000 a year. It includes this survey, and it also includes 3 sub-surveys that the city can take on. So right now, in addition to this,
But we already have that with the services we have with Sin City, or this is something new?
this is something new. This is
So it'd be 20,000.
20,000, and so it includes a community survey, and it includes three engagement surveys. Well, one of them was just completed through our Parks Department. So the technology that was used to get the public's feedback on the parks questions was it was around over 1,000 people provided their feedback. That technology, Sin City provided that technology.
Questions, comments?
Couple of questions. Is there an open-ended question that will allow for some comments, just in general, so that we can look at comments? And then, is there anything on water? What the public's perception is of water supply and safety of water and all that kind of stuff?
Let's see here.
I just didn't see it.
There is an open-ended, two open-ended questions on page 2 out of 5, question number 21 and 22. What is your favorite thing about living in McAllen? That's open-ended. And then the second question is, what is the thing you would most want to change about life in McAllen? And so that one's pretty open-ended in terms of, people providing feedback.
I think you're correct. I think there needs to be one specifically on water.
On water?
How they feel about water, water pressure, water quality, and water supply.
Let me just say this, and we can add it, right? I already think that this survey's too long, okay? I mean, what Caesar said is so important. You get past 10 or 15 questions and people say, forget it, I'm not gonna finish it. So we gotta be real careful about that. 2 is, this is in addition to the survey that we do every 3 years that always includes water and sewer, always. And so these are topics that we felt had maybe skewed answers because of outside forces. Traffic is the perfect example. And in fact, what I'll say about our timing, December's probably not the right time to do it because their best guess at TxDOT is that the interstate's gonna be finished in December. That's not gonna be enough time for people to reevaluate their traffic patterns and so on. So we'll probably be looking at February or March. So if water and sewer is something that you want to do, back to that, we can do. But just know that we do it every 3 years, and we've had very good results. We're actually focusing on things that we've not done well. And so, most cities would shy away from that and say, I don't want to do that for another 3 years. We really want to know how people are feeling about the improvements that we made and if it's enough.
But we have one question that says access to quality healthcare services. That one could easily be replaced by quality water, because we have a direct control over the quality of water. We have a lot less control over
Again, we can
healthcare
certainly
services, other than we inspect restaurants and those kind of things. And so, just kind of food for thought there.
And then is there a mechanism or anything for response? In other words, 3 months from the survey, 6 months from the survey, a response of what we have currently, what we're looking at? So that in the same way of spending money to get feedback from them, is there availability for us to give feedback to them?
Well, typically what we do is we do post the results on our website.
Yeah, I know how we do that.
Yeah. But independent of that, the company does provide a platform, they call it an engaged platform, where we can start a conversation with the public.
Is there any
I
general
don't
demographics?
understand the question. The question is, okay, we get the feedback of what they feel
Needs improvement.
needs improvements and whatever, okay? So we get them. And then we do the improvements, and then, I know we put it on our TV, whatever, and a lot of what we post and our social media. We do that. But some people see it and some people don't, right? In this way, as they get it, can we send it out to everyone? This is what we heard, and this is what we have, and this is what we're doing.
Yes, there's a final question at the end where people can add their contact information. And so as an after, we can provide the results to everybody who put down their contact information.
Well, that's the
But we
result.
also put it on our webpage.
Yes, sir.
And so, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of energy on the every 3-year commitment that we have, but we do two things. One is when we get the results of the survey, we bring you an action plan of what we intend to do to fix them. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels.
Okay, exactly that.
Yeah, we bring that to you.
Okay, how do we get that to the?
We can put that on the webpage, and then obviously we can individualize it the way
Right.
Caesar is indicating, but we do put it on our informational pieces. And then every 3 years, anything that we didn't score well, we put it back on the survey, and that's why we did the bond issue. That's why we did the traffic improvements, the signalization timing. It came from these surveys, and we spent substantial amount of money on that plan.
You had a question?
How many respondents do we need to get to feel we have a satisfactory pool of?
So to be able to do some simple correlations, we would need 10 respondents per questions. That's 360. But to feel good about this survey, to make it statistically valid, we would need 600, 602.
10 sounds real low.
Yeah, that's just to be able to do correlations between questions. But 600 for the survey to be statistically
to
valid.
feel like you're getting kind of the median of
600,
experience,
602 would be the answer.
602.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so remember, this is an interim
Yeah.
survey that we're doing. The 600 gets you a plus or minus 5%
Okay.
of accuracy. 1,100 respondents, believe it or not, gets you within 2 or 3%.
Okay.
So
And
it's pretty accurate.
on this, before these questions come up, is any type of general demographic information collected? Not personal as far as name, address, but age ranges, education level, right? Because people answer these questions very differently depending on if you're 19 or you're 65.
Yes, sir. Age, income level, gender. The one question that's absolutely mandatory would be if they put down that they're a McAllen resident, they would have to put down a McAllen zip code. If they don't, that's one of the criteria that is used to eliminate them from the response. The zip code. So that's a critical demographic question, just to make sure that we're dealing with someone who is a resident for their feedback.
And can they only do it once?
Yes, and the idea is that we won't have.
Allow flooding of.
Yeah, I mean, what are the chances that someone sits on or takes multiple surveys and on multiple tablets and essentially tries to game it? The idea would be if you see the same IP address multiple times, that they'll be able to call that particular.
Yeah, that's why the number of responses is, because even if someone does 10 on 10 devices,
Yeah.
when you've got 1,000 or 1,500, it dilutes those. So
That's right.
either way.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
And the last item we've got, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, is discussion on proposed subdivision fees. We had touched on this before. We've got a recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioners. Like Roy mentioned last time, or a few months ago, I brought a proposal for a Mylar review fee, which was ultimately approved. When I brought that fee over, one of the responses or one of the feedback that I received was to look at our overall subdivision fee schedule and kind of discuss it and try to update it. It hasn't been updated since 2007. So a quick recap, a subdivision ultimately leads to a legal document. So our staff needs to be very careful when we're looking at those applications and subdivisions, because it ultimately gets recorded and due to the legal nature, we need to be very careful. There are 6 departments that review subdivision applications. Each department rather has at least 2 people reviewing subdivisions. You're talking about at least a dozen staff members, and their time, really it's about 18. It's about a dozen and a half. So with that in mind, I looked at the subdivision application fees around Texas. Most municipalities do it on a sliding scale, depending on the number of lots or the number of acres that are being developed, the price goes up. The idea there is obviously a 1-lot, single-family home subdivision is a lot different than a 100-lotter, right? You want to make sure you capture those complexities there. What you'll notice here is McAllen is very low, right? We're a great value. We're very cheap. And then when you look at inexpensive, it's a value. I like value better. When you look at the regionally, again, we are among the lowest. We're tied with Harlingen at $300 for a full subdivision application. Most other cities in our region have gone to a sliding scale. And so with that in mind, we are proposing a sliding scale fee structure. So for residential properties, except for apartments, and I'll explain that in a little bit, we're proposing a $300 base fee and then $25 per lot. The idea here was to keep your small subdivision or your small residential subdivision still affordable. So today, a 1-lot subdivision would cost $300. Should this be approved in the future, it would be $325. So it does increase, but it's not something prohibitively expensive. Again, we want to make sure that we encourage people to subdivide when they need to, and we don't want to make it out of the range. For non-residential subdivisions, including apartments, we're proposing a $400 base fee and then a sliding scale after that, depending on the acreage. The reason we're including apartments here is because apartments tend to be just 1 lot, and the complexities of a 1-lot apartment development aren't the same as a 1-lot single-family home. So we want to make sure we capture that. That's really the essence for that proposal. So with that in mind, I went ahead and created some scenarios of what certain subdivision applications would cost. You'll notice that from being among the lowest, we went up to the top quartile, so the top 25%. We're still not the most expensive. I would propose we don't become the most expensive. We are, or we tend to have a reputation of being pro-development. We don't want to kill that with outrageous fees. We just want the fees to reflect the staff time that comes in with those reviews. So with that in mind, again, these are the fees that we're proposing. It's not up for a vote today. This is more just to get the conversation started. Do we want to continue tinkering with it? Do you like the sliding fee idea rather, or do we just scrap it all together and have a set fee for all applications, just higher than what it is today?
Any questions? Comments?
I'm for it.
Well, I think that the $25 per lot might be on the high side.
The $25 per lot?
Yeah, on the 25. You need a base fee, okay, because, it has to be reviewed.
Okay.
So you do have to have a base fee. But in a 10-acre subdivision, just regular residential, you've got 40, at least 40 lots, okay? Could be more.
Yeah.
Let's just say 40 lots, so right there, you're at $1,000.
Yes.
Plus 300, so that'd be $1,300. And right now, we're at 225 plus 75, so we're at 300. So, I mean, you're jumping 3 times higher.
Do we add a fee per review?
No.
After-
So that's a very good question, Commissioner. So this is just for the subdivision application. So right now, again, it's $300, and then that takes you all the way to the end until we get to the Mylar. So this would be, for example, for 30 lots residential, it would be $1,050, and then that's it until you get to your Mylar reviews.
So, I guess Commissioner Aguirre, the fees haven't been updated since 2007?
7, yes, sir.
So we're looking at 16 years. In those 16 years, we've added a tremendous amount of staff, the overhead of all said staff, the resources, the cost of maintaining, operating, healthcare, all of that has gone up. A 30-lot subdivision for $1,000?
Plus 300,
No,
But-
That's already with the,
1,050 with the 300.
for a 30 lotter.
Let's say
The
30
40
lot.
lot,
Yeah.
But it's more 40 lots, right? On
Correct.
10 acres, right?
It would be more.
4 per acre, okay.
Yeah, if the lots are smaller, I guess you did.
So, no, you can get up to 45, but anyway.
That seems
But,
reasonable.
Okay,
So,
I'm seeing it for the first time, so.
of course.
You know,
yeah, I mean,
I would jump.
going into developments and investment, right? We always want to be pro-business, but these resources that all the taxpayers are paying for are heavily utilized by
Let me-
an investment group, right?
Yeah,
And they create value. I understand that as well.
Yeah, obviously, you know, I'm a developer. This cost is not the relevant cost. The relevant cost is, you know, some of the changes that have occurred in which this certain pipe cannot be used anymore, this cannot be used anymore, the bedding has to be changed, the this, all that. That for years and years it's worked, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's been changes. That is where your costs are driven higher, okay?
Well, the
It's-
back and forth, the time that maybe it takes between questions,
And
those kind of
engineers
things,
and planning.
that is probably more cost prohibitive than the $1,000, you know?
Yes.
If we're more efficient as a city, then I think developers are gonna be able to pay that $1,050 and be
Yeah,
fine with it.
this is a start, this is nothing.
Yeah.
But when you do change, you know, materials and change ways of doing it, and that's what, you know, you have to really analyze, are the changes necessary and why? Okay, so I'll just leave you that the big costs are in different areas, not this area. Okay. And of course, the speed is very important. So, yes, if we're adding people, if we're adding this, bottom line, we looked at the not losing quality people because it's more efficient if we have quality people, okay? And that's why we looked at the longevity, pay and things like that. Because obviously if you have good, efficient people working, they're faster. And so those costs are actually more relevant to developers and future developers than this fee scenario.
Anything else? Comments?
We'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back, and I guess this is the last item, and we'll recess into executive session.
This concludes the workshop of the McAllen City Commission. Workshops are held every second and fourth Monday of the month, convening at 4 p.m. at the McAllen City Commission chamber on the third floor at McAllen City Hall.
He's like magic. He's everywhere. And I want to thank him for being really at my side throughout this incredible heck of a ride that we've had. He's been like our ambassador to Mexico. The days that we were in D.C., I flew home, he flew to Mexico City. Thank you. And to all of my staff that, I tell you what, they just work tirelessly to make these things happen. They may not